Hello, welcome back to another pen talk. Thanks for tuning in. We're still on this journey. It may never end. I saw this pen on eBay. Here's the auction. And here's why I was interested in it. It's a Lanbitou 3059 with a hooded nib. So I had to experiment with it. I had to try it out. It costs a little bit more than the other Lanbitous, but you know, that's the way it is. Came in this classic plastic sleeve. For once, it's all in English. And it is the .38. There's your SKU for what it's worth, and a nice barcode to manage the inventory. One of the things that surprised me was it took a while to get here, and it was shipped from Thailand, which seems a little strange to me. I wasn't prepared for that, but that explains the long shipping time. If we look at this pen, we'll see standard Lanbitou markings. The name is on the cap, your classic clip there, your logo at the top of the clip, your logo in red at the top of the pen, reminiscent of another pen maker, and the model number on the barrel with the logo again. It's an unscrew cap. Takes about 1.5 turns to unscrew it, and we see the hooded nib. And the other thing that's unique about this is the feed is clear. In the Wingsung hooded nibs that I've played with, and also the Jinhaos, the feed is black. But then this is all transparent here in the section, so that makes for a nice color change when you fill it with ink. You know, it has that sculpted section, which is kind of on the small side, but it fits well in the hand. Yeah, the piston works fine up and down. You know, it stops because of those little pieces inside the barrel, and I'm certain that's why they're there, to stop the piston from going all the way down. But then that leaves a lot of air in there when you try to fill it. So that has its downsides. There's no clicking, it just stops. And this turns very easily, so for those that like their piston fillers to lock in place or to be secure, or you want to put this in your pocket, this is certainly not a pen that I would do that with. This ring unscrews to pull out the whole assembly if you wanted to clean it or silicone grease it or anything else like that, but I'm not planning on doing that. I haven't exactly figured out how this nib comes out. My guess is this piece here pulls out, because this is all one piece here, like the TWSBI Eco and like the other Lanbitous and the 308, so there's not anything you're going to be able to do with that. It posts nicely, and it posts on that rubber O-ring, aka Eco. It makes for a substantially long pen, but not back-weighted, so the pen is light, the cap is light. You know, so you can post it just to keep the cap somewhere, or you can just leave it aside and not worry about posting it and let it roll around. So I'm going to decide what ink I'm going to put in this, because I definitely want to see how well this hooded nib performs, as I'm going to compare it against my experiences with the Wingsung and Jinhao hooded nibs. So here's the pens we're going to write with, and just to explore the nibs. The Lanbitou 3059, all clear with silver trim, as a 0.38 hooded nib. This is your classic, well, now I'm calling it a classic, Wingsung 618, which also has an extra fine hooded nib. Here we have a clear version with gold trim, and that has a fine nib, 0.5. And then last but not least is your TWSBI Eco, which has a medium nib in it. This has Iroshizuku Mojijo. This has Lake of Fire, Robert Oster Lake of Fire. This has Robert Oster Direct Sun, and this has Robert Oster Turquoise. So let's see how these nibs work. The dilemma what ink to put in the pen. I haven't used this for a while. I'm in a turquoise mood, so we're going to ink it up with that, and here it is with the first fill. And I mean, there's probably a good 1.5 mil in there, maybe even 2. But you can see this gap here. So I'm going to do my flush fill 2 more times just to make certain everything is out there. But I think you can see how nice that color looks in there. Some people might call this 3059 a TWSBI Eco knockoff, but it's certainly not a knockoff by any stretch of anybody's imagination. It does share some design features, but it also has so many other different features to it that I call it its own pen. And to me, one of the biggest differences is the shape of the section. You know, the 3059 has this faceted section with 3 facets on it, similar to your Lamy Safari, and the Eco has your standard tapered section that flares out at the bottom. So that's a big difference. And this also, the TWSBI Eco has your standard style nib in it. And this also comes in a standard nib as well as this hooded nib, which is what we're going to explore in writing. So overall, I would say that this is a fine, extra fine nib. Not necessarily my favorite style of nib, but I certainly can appreciate it. It glides. I've done nothing to this nib. I would generally do a slight bit of smoothing on some polishing paper, because I think every nib can benefit by that. But considering this is a mass-produced pen for about $2.50, I'd say it's very well done. And this is not a really dense colored ink. This is more of a medium colored light ink, and it still works well in this extra fine nib. This lays down a decent amount of ink, which I'm very, very happy about. So let's see how it compares to a 618 extra fine, which I have in here. And this is Robert Oster Direct Sun, so you got a similar type of ink. And I'd say it's a similar type of nib. This one is actually smoother on the paper, but I may have done some smoothing on this. And it is actually, looks like a little bit of a thicker line too. I mean, if I had to pick between one of these, 618 has been one of my go-to daily writer pens. You know, one of the things that's nice about them is you can let them set for a month or so and uncap them and write first time, and they're very consistent in writing, which I can't say about the 3059. So this is now a fine nib. Which is normally referred to as a 0.5 millimeter nib. And it is a wider line. This is also Robert Oster ink like a fire, so it's a similar type of ink with similar properties. So 0.38 to 0.5 is 0.12 millimeters, which is not a significant amount. Looking at these nibs under a loop, you can see a difference in the tipping material. We'll see if we can get the camera to focus on him here. So the gold colored nib on the right is the 0.5 and the one on the left is the 0.38. So yes, there is a difference between them, and yes, they do have ink in them. It's more apparent here if you look at the tipping material on the bottom of the nib. There is definitely a visual difference between those two nibs. If I'm going to pick a pen to write with on a daily basis, this pen would be a great everyday carry. Like I said, it's nice that it writes consistently first time every time, and that to me is a One of the advantages of a hooded nib over a standard nib is, and one of the reasons why the Parker 51, which was the classic of the hooded nibs, really became popular when it came out, and also because of the futuristic design and just the streamlined nature of it, much more modern than your other pens of the day, which were more kind of an Art Deco style. So now we have, just as a comparison, a TWSBI with a medium nib. And again, you know, you can see that's definitely a wider line. So a medium nib is generally considered a 0.70 millimeter. So again, it's a little bit more of a variance between the fine and the medium as far as the actual measurements go, but for percentage-wise, it's about the same percentage difference as that between extra fine and fine. Now, the one thing I will say about this TWSBI Eco, it has had the same ink in it for almost 2 years now, since I first got the pen. And it's Iroshizuku Majijo, which is a really nice red, a little bit of pink in it, but you know, nice red. And this is also a fairly wet writer, but this pen, I've never had to do anything with it. It writes first time every time. I think I may have cycled ink through it once in a couple of years, but I have to admit that as for a consistent writer, it's definitely up there. And to me, even though these pens share a lot of features and everything else, if I had to make a choice between the two, the Eco would easily win out. Now we come to that all-important part, the rating. After careful consideration, I'm going to give it a 6.5. Partly the reason for that is there's nothing new or special about it. The nib is standard. Yeah, it's a nice piston filler. Yeah, it's just a good Chinese pen, good piston filler, a good price. A lot of variety of nibs that you can order it with. You know, extra fine or fine, standard or hooded. So that's why it gets as high as a 6.5. I don't go any higher than that because there's nothing special. I'm not a fan of this grip. I think I'm amazed at the shading of this turquoise ink in this extra fine nib, but that's more a tribute to the Robert Oster ink than the actual pen. So we reached the end. So thank you for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed a look at a pen that I never knew would exist, and the fact that it came from Thailand makes it even stranger. So may you have many great, excellent writing experiences. May it fill your life with joy, and may you share your joy with those around you. That makes it even better. So we've reached the end. So until next time, bye.